to make product today without listening to the customer is very, very dangerous.
Agile methodologies should be used by everyone, whether you're in product, engineering, or fintech. They aid to innovate fast, in a powerful and structured manner. They've become a cornerstone of innovation in Brazil. But what can you and the rest of the world learn from their application? Today, we're joined with Thais Rigolon, a tech and agile expert with over 13 years of experience in the tech space. She's currently part of the startup ecosystem at Neon, one of Brazil's unicorn fintech startups. She's passionate about driving impact through agile principles and product management. We find out all about how agile is evolving and the nature of startups and finance. This is the Gen Z in STEM podcast. I'm your host, Marjorie, and I hope you're as excited as I am. Let's get to it.
So, hi, today I'm joined with Thais. You're from Brazil. You have a large experience in agile methodologies for product management and bit the fintech space, like nearly over a decade in the tech sector. And so I know your English is not your first language, so thank you so much for coming on today, the first podcast in English. And yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And yes, I am very anxious because it's my first episode in English. So and I am happy to talk with you about tech, product, and agile methodologies. And here in Brazil, we love so much this kind of things like change, knowledge, and be with the community. So I'm very happy to be here.
Okay. So, we're going to be talking this first segment about agile methodologies in the context of product management. But it might be nice to first establish just a tiny base in case someone doesn't know. Can you quickly explain just what is product management?
Nice. The concept of product management is like what we can do in development a product that is focused on a client and what is focused on the pain and the needs of the client. This is the center thing. So when we talk about that, we are talking also with the way that we do product. So agile is intrinsically connected. So today we in Brazil we have a lot of ways of doing product, but I think the most general concept is focus on the client and build, test and learn. So you have to be hypothesis and you have to learn with this hypothesis and make experiments a lot and receive feedback of the client. So to make product today without listening to the customer is very, very dangerous. So I think in general, this is the focus. When we are building something, we are building something for a client, for a persona. So we need to know this kind of client, these personas, and we need to solve pains with the product.
Okay. And I don't know, you might have already touched upon it a bit, but so then what is the product mindset and how do agile methodologies help implement these skills to make a product?
Nice. I think agile and product mindset is like you have to test, you have to make experiments. So in Brazil, like in 20 years earlier, we made some big, huge projects like 1 year documenting the product, and later you represent it to the customer, and the customer doesn't need any more of this. So we spend a lot of money, we spend a lot of time with the people developing something that we will throw the garbage. So
Yeah.
this is the problem. But agile and the product mindset is something that is more about the how you think about product and less about the framework that we have. Because you can use Scrum, you can use Kanban, but you also can make a framework of yourself. The mindset is like we have an idea and we have to make some hypothesis and we have to experiment about this because we don't know if this will fit or no with the client. And when we build something like bigger, we deliver later to the customer. And when we slice the roadmap, we are like making a MVP, like a minimal viable product, and testing with the client and understanding the need of the client and understanding if we are in the path that we want, like in a vision of product, you know. So this is the huge difference because when we are doing some traditional projects, sometimes we make a plan and we stick to the plan and never can, anything can change. So this is the problem because in this product mindset, the change is something that we have to see like an opportunity, you know. So sometimes when I work in traditional banks and traditional companies, was very common that if the client requests something to change, no, 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 you can because you need to stick to the plan, you know. So if you want to change something, you have to pay. So this is very bad, you know, because you make like a relationship with the client very resistance, very bad, you know. So I think this is the mindset of the product. Focus on the client, and need the feedback because even if the feedback is like negative about your product, okay, because you receive earlier, so you anticipate the risks. So I think this is in general, this is like the mindset. And I think other thing is like the product people have to be this kind of clue thing, you know, like take the stakeholders and make business, talk with technology, with design, and with all these kind of stakeholders and do things together. This is very important.
So like I can guess like the agile like way to do it is to actually do like iterations and change the product based on what you've heard with like stakeholders and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. For me, it's less about framework that you use and more about how you think about the things and how you think about I will interview customers and I will listen to feedbacks. I will see the data of the journey on the app and I will make some hypotheses. And this is the agile framework. And I will bring the engineering to me to see the problems, to listening to customers and design and data team. So it's about this and less about the framework, about Scrum, Kanban, and other kinds of things, you know. And sometimes you stick to the plan, like stick to the framework, and we also can make some big mistakes, you know. So I think is a challenging, I know, but I think this is the future. And with the AI, you know, we have a lot of improvements in this kind of process things. So we have to use our mindset or most different thing about things to think critical in the product, you know.
Yeah. Okay. And then also, so the agile scene is evolving in Brazil. You've been in it for quite a while. How has the agile community in Brazil grown during your time in the scene?
Yeah, yeah. In Brazil, we have a lot of this community side, you know, about a lot of things. So Agile, we have a lot of communities, some general communities, some focus on Scrum, Kanban, other things, you know. So Brazil is very, very open to listening to new ideas. And oh, I want to listen to you, Maya, because you are on other company and other industry. So I will learn with you. So this is something very nice in Brazil. So in the Agile community, we have a lot of events, meetups, podcasts, and communities in WhatsApp, in Telegram, in Slack. So we have a lot of this, and also in product, and also in the fintech market. We have a lot of things in Brazil because it's kind of a culture thing, you know. We like to change knowledge. So I think the community evolved in these years. Like we are being very critical about the role of agile because in Brazil is today we have the thinking about agile is like a skill that you have to be with this skill. Even if you are a product manager or an engineering or a designer, you have to be with this skill. You don't need anymore a role to represent this, you know. I
Mm-hmm.
know that some companies already have this role in Brazil, but it's a lower companies, you know, because this is changing here. So this brings like hot topics
Mm-hmm.
to discuss in the community, like, oh, agile will dead and something like that. But no, because it's the mindset, you know. The mindset of made products. This is will not die, you know, but this is a hot topic in Brazil because the role are changing very much. Some companies doesn't have anymore this role, and this is changing. This is evolving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are there any like challenges of implementing like agile methodologies in product management, or yeah, strictly or specific to Brazil?
I think in Brazil we have advantage that we we risk, so we take risks, you know. So this is good because we test a lot of things and new ways to do things, and we bring like cases,
Mm-hmm.
success cases. And compares to Europe, like we are very in advantage of something. So in Brazil, we have a lot of people that, okay, I will test it. So Brazil have the Pix. The Pix is a way of doing and transfer of money in digital banking. So
Mm-hmm.
this changes a lot of the habits of the all the people, and people are using, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
people in all ages are using. So we have a Brazilian kind of culture that is very open. So I think this helps
Mm-hmm.
to improve and test things. So this is, I think, is different because when you have a very conservative environment, you will not be able to test some ideas, you know. And it's not all the companies of Brazil that is like opening and very
Mm-hmm.
like this, but I think most of companies want the change and sometimes bring these people to think in a new way to doing things and learn. And I think this is an advantage here because we can innovate a lot. So yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that because so I'm also from Argentina, and it's like I guess it is South America, and I think there's this thing where like a different mindset to risk, because well, especially Argentina with like for instance inflation, there's certain risks certain companies like for instance Mercado Pago have to take constantly, where European companies are like, wow, you're doing this like constantly, and they're like, yes, because you kind of have to, like that's the culture, not being scared of risk.
Yeah, sure. And like in Latin America, we have like Nubank, and Nubank is like innovating the way of doing things. I think this is very nice because when you are open to change, you are open to new ways of working.
Also, you've mentioned in our past conversation like the digital transformation and how you sometimes aid companies with that. How is that relevant to our society today, and how can companies effectively navigate this change by the use of agile methodologies?
Nice. I think the companies need to be open to change and need to like you don't have to start like a big bang change, you know. You can start like taking a team or business unit or a product and test, make tests like the same way that we are doing product in the team, you know. So take a team and make a pilot and give them autonomy to do the things and to deliver. And this will be the case of your company. And it's very natural that some people of other teams see this change and the impact of this team that have a more autonomy to do things and deliver results. And they will want to make this change, you know.
Yeah,
So I think this is the best way because when you start like with the top down, you know, so today we are starting to use this framework. This is very bad because in conscience the people have this resistance. So this is the bad way to do the change.
yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. Actually, that links to my next like point of discussion, which is sort of like startups versus larger company dynamics. Because depending on the type of company you're in, it impacts the roles that are required and your experience. So you've been both in startups and more traditional companies. So what difference do you see in working in a startup opposed to like a corporate company?
Well, I think they both have something good, you know, seeing in large companies we have a lot of data, a lot of clients, we have a lot of impact on clients, but also we have a lot of bureaucracy. So sometimes to make a little change, you have to be like talking with a lot of stakeholders and we have a lot of resistance, so it's very difficult. But in an environment of a startup, it's very different because sometimes you have to do a lot of things and even a lot of things that is not on your scope, you know, because you have to deliver results. So some people don't fit in this kind of environment and it's okay. But for me, I think it's nice because we have a lot of learning fast in startups, you know, because I am a very curious people, so I want to start new things and study new things. So for me, it's good, but I know for some people it's difficult because it's a lot of work also. And sometimes if in startups we have a lot of to do, but we have some little time to prove, like check the break even, and we have a lot of results to deliver. So it's a tense environment, but you learn a lot. And in this kind of large companies, we have more stability, but also we have some difficulty to implement something new, you know. But it's also possible. It's also possible. But for me, I think I prefer startups.
Yeah, yeah. And well, do you maybe have an example of like what sort of functions or like roles you could do on a weekly basis when you're in a startup?
Nice. Well, I think sometimes telling about my experience right now in Neon, that is a fintech, a Brazilian fintech, and we don't have anymore the agile role. We don't have anymore the quality assurance role. We don't have anymore the product marketing role. So I have in a responsible of payments products and the digital account, I have to think all about that to the end-to-end delivery. So I have to think in the discover, I have to think in the research with the clients and the data that I am looking to take decisions, and I have to think in the launch of this product, so the go-to market. So it's a lot of things to think about, you know. But I am also with the experience more larger, you know, because if I was in if I were in a company in a large company, sometimes I have a little space to do the things, you know. So I think this is the big difference because you have a box and you are in this box.
Yeah.
So you can make this space of other area, other role, I don't know. But here in a kind of startup thing, you can learn data, you can learn how to make a launch with marketing, and you can learn how you make like communication with the clients, and you have some, you have a lot of to do, you know.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of space to learn. So this is good, but also we have a lot of responsibility. So this is the you have to understand what is your profile, you know, what is you want to do. And like for me is very good because I am learning a lot, you know. And I earlier in this kind of role of product, I was in product operations. So I like was thinking about my client that was the product management, so how I make the life of the product management more easy to do the things in daily basis. So this is a role that we have, product operations, but agile we don't have anymore because we think that all the people have this mindset already, you
Yeah.
know, but we based we need to evolve like a culture in this kind of things. We have in a moment this role to make this cultural thing. So this is important depending on the market, on the company. So I think depends on your challenge, you know.
And do you think like innovation and risk taking differs between like a startup and corporate company, and like how so?
The risk thing is very much easy in a startup thing, you know, and because you need to risk to live, you know,
Yeah.
to innovate. So you have to take risks, but you have scare also sometimes because if you take a decision that you can like break your company. So this is difficult, but also if you make this certain decision, you can innovate and grow very fast. So I think we have sometimes ways of doing things like in Neon, we are a fintech, so we are regulated with Bacen, that is the
Yeah.
regulator in Brazil. So we have some rules to fit in. So we have to do product in a way that we use the product mindset, but we also need to feel this kind of regulatory things, you know. So we have some minimal process to guarantee that we are taking risks, okay, but we are also mitigating these risks. So we have to do a minimal plan of mitigating risks that we can see in the future, you know. So even in startups, we can create process that help us to take risks. So this is a low risk, this is a medium risk, this is a high risk. Okay, I want to take this risk. So if this happens, we will do that. You do that. So we have a plan to mitigate these risks, you know. But when we are like blind and the shit happens in production, this is very bad in a way in a startup. But in a large company, sometimes you have a area of risks that make some process and make some things that sometimes takes a lot of bureaucracy. So to launch a product, you like takes a year to launch something. So this is time to market, you know. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so you also, as you mentioned, you work in well a fintech in the fintech sector. So I'm curious, what sparked your interest in entering the sector?
well, for me, like I am a very curious people. For me, it's very nice because in Brazil, the fintech sector is growing very fast
Yeah.
with open finance, with this kind of innovation way of doing things. Today, we can send, like I said, Pix is innovative here in Brazil. It's like a way of doing transfers of money without paying fees to people. So I make the transfer to you and you receive right now. It's a online receiving. So we don't need agents anymore. We don't need to take off your houses to make this transfer. We don't need the even the money in paper, you know, it's all digital. So this is a huge change. And you when you work in this kind of sector is you work with people very incredible and that are innovating and are creating this kind of new things because we don't have in other countries like that. You have like pigs in India and also in other countries, but like open finance, what we are doing right now is something very innovative. So if you want and if you like innovative things, this is a huge sector to enter. But also we have the regulator part, you know. So you have to know the business thing, you have to know the rules, you have to deep understand the product. So if you work with credit card, you have to know the rules. So we have a lot of rules. If you work with payments, we have a lot of ways of doing payments. We have like bank slips that is like boleto in Brazil, and this is a kind of payment that have a lot of rules. And we have the PIX that is a transfer rate that have a lot of rules. So this is the part that we have to think about because you have to learn a lot, you have to know all the things that people are doing, but we have a way of make something like in WhatsApp. We use right now WhatsApp to send money, even you can like we have a company that is very
Mm-hmm.
new in Brazil that calls Magi,
Mm-hmm.
and this company like you can transfer in Pix and you can pay a boleto like in WhatsApp. You don't need to enter in a bank account anymore, you know. So and Roberto Campos Neto, that is our regulator chief, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they say that in the future we will have only one app that aggregates all the accounts that you have and all the balances, and you don't need anymore to take credit in a lot of banks. You just need one application that will be the super app, you know.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, this is a great opportunity to grow and to learn a lot with the people, and we have a lot of people using this product, so we
Mm-hmm.
can test. I think this is
Mm-hmm.
good, and some companies of other countries
Mm-hmm.
are coming to Brazil because we are very open to change and
Mm-hmm.
to test and to do new things, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like what you're saying is even super relevant and will continue to be relevant in countries where the banking system is not very stable, because also sometimes the trust in the banks is not the same. So when you don't need to have like this credit system, or like, these are new methods that can go, so people can have like methods that are not just cash. So that's, yeah, wow, I understand why you're in the sector.
Yeah, and I think the most incredible thing about open finance for me is because the client have the power of your data, you know. So you have the power of give the consent to the bank account and to do things. So this is very nice, you know. So you have the power and you choose where you want to use the money and not the companies choose for the client, you know. So
Hmm.
this is
Yeah.
a breakthrough.
Yeah. Okay, now I want to shift to like you talked at the start, community and building community and like the agile world. So you've been involved in various projects working with, for instance, open software or other projects centered around community in product management, like Mulheres de Produto. And so, well, what inspired you to get involved with Mulheres de Produto?
Nice. For me, being a woman in all this tech environment was very difficult since the beginning. So in the beginning, I was with a lot of men in the teams, and I really don't have this like help of other people. So I suffer a lot in silence. Like, okay, it's normal what I am passing through, but
Hmm.
no, it's not normal. And when I meet this kind of communities, I know that no, I am not wrong. Some things that happens in the past was very toxic, and I was naturalizing this kind of things, you know. So the community was very important for me, and they came with the agile first of all,
Hmm.
and when I was doing open source was when I knew a new way of doing things, how we can documentate or code and make like open to the people. For me
Yeah.
was this is were very very difficult to understand because what and this can work, you know,
Uh-huh.
because we have a community of people that want to evolve the system, and this for me was a breaking through because I changed a lot of my mind, and we can share knowledge, we can make benchmarking, we can change with the people. And this is not I will take your idea and I will no, it's like everything is growing together, you know. So
Hmm.
Mulheres de Produto was something about the kind of things that I want support people to help me, and
Yeah.
I help the women also with mentorship and with
Hmm.
meetups and this kind of things, because when I was passing through these problems in my earlier life in work, I was alone, you know. So I don't want this to happen with the women's here, and we have a lot of large community of women's,
Hmm.
and we help women that want to make the transition to product to tech companies and have a lot of scares of application to a company, and she's very prepared, but she's have scared to be there. So we need to import this kind of women, because the men are doing this job. So for me, this kind of topic of women was very important in all my life, but now I am very focused and give my time to help other humans. And earlier, I have some podcast in Agile that I was interviewing a lot of women also because we need to tell these stories. We have a lot of incredible women, so we have to make these women take to stage and tell their stories.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And what has been the impact for you of also, well, mentoring, but also having this space with other women in product management?
This is very important because when you don't have like inspiration of other women in in your environment, in your work, we think that it's not possible to get there. So it's very, very important to be in a kind of company that, okay, you have challenges, but we want to change. So right now in Neon, we have a group of women that discuss a lot of the problems and how we can get more women in leadership and how we can make some mentorship to women get in roles of C-level. So if we don't do that, this will this will be very difficult. So this is very important. And for me, when I think in my professional journey, I always think about my leaderships, and all the best leaderships that I had was women's. All, all, all. And it's different. Yes. And they inspire me every single day. Every single day. So we need to have this inspiring of women.
And so my last question is like, what are your hopes and goals for like, yeah, the industry you're in?
Well, I think we have a lot of things to do in the kind of women community, and we want to more women's entering in companies and leading products, leading new innovation things. So I have a lot of hope that the companies in each industry will be more diverse. And also I have a lot of interesting in see what we are experiment with AI, with generative AI. So Brazil made a lot of new products, and we also are seeing this kind of things, different things. And sometimes I have a scare about this, but I am like most seeing with the perspective of opportunity of what we can do with AI in product and in the fintech industry. Um, I have a lot of hope that open finance will be more diverse for Brazilian people, and also will help people that today don't get credit and don't know how to make money, because in Brazil we have a lot of problem with inequalities. So I really believe that technology can help and help improve lives and help with the government. So yes, I am a believer.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on today. And also, I know that you have quite a bit like a presence not only in the like agile like space, but also on LinkedIn. So I'll link that for anyone who wants to like follow what you do. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Was very nice, and yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with friends and family and consider giving us a follow or rating on your favorite platform. We'll be back soon to bring more inspiration to your Monday.